Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. So today I'm bringing out one of our authors from our newly released book, Mission Matters, Women in Business Vol.1, our inaugural issue of the Women in Business series. And I got to tell you, it's been so much fun putting this together and working with this amazing group of women. So let me first introduce the author for today. So today's author is Renee Lopez-Cantera, who's VP of Business Development over at Eikon Digital. Renee, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Adam. Thanks so much for having me on. It's even more exciting now that we have this book that's launching.
Oh, my gosh. So I got to ask, finally, we've been putting this together for, about a year or so, and we've been bringing together the content, curating it. Now it's done. I mean, how do you feel?
Well, it's very exciting because, sometimes you're working, you're busy, and you don't realize how much knowledge you've gained and things you want to share. And I love the content of the book, the way you've curated all the chapters, with all these women leaders. And, just choosing the type of topic I wanted to choose was an interesting process that I really enjoyed.
So we're going to get into your chapter and topic. So the title of Renee's chapter is How High is Your EQ? The Case for Social Emotional Intelligence. But before we get into that, I don't want to assume, I know you've been on some of the other shows other times, but I don't want to assume that all of our new listeners caught the first episode. So let's just start with your background, Renee. So how did you really get started, in your career and in business?
Well, it's interesting. Obviously now I work in business development. But I do have a 20-plus year career in marketing, a lot in direct response. So I was the one behind the scenes when, digital media was just learning how to figure out how to make all the email blasts and the copy and the content and all the technical part, trying to squeeze a budget. So it's interesting. I didn't think I'd go into relationship development and actual sales, but it was an easy transition because I can really relate with our, other CMOs or people who are working in marketing that have a budget and they have goals to accomplish and they don't have the time or the team to get it done. So that's where I step in. So I don't look at it as sales. I look at it just helping our business partners.
That's awesome. And for the listeners, I am completely biased on this one, but Renee is excellent because we were in the pre-show. She was solving one of my problems. I was like, so how do I get all of our authors? We have these amazing authors. We probably have a little over 140 authors we've published as of this point. And I'm like, how do I get everybody to talk together? And she listened and she heard my problem and literally solved it within 10-minute phone call. And I've been struggling with this problem for, a year and a half maybe. So, Renee, that's my plug for you. You are awesome.
Oh, thanks, Adam. I mean, just to that topic, that's what we do every day when we do digital marketing with our clients is we listen to their pain points, what their goals are, their KPIs, and we just kind of make a plan. There's so many interesting technologies out there in different ways. And it's just about testing and measuring and seeing if something works for somebody. So I guess by doing that with so many clients, I have a book of over 20 personal clients that I work with every day, and with our team over the years, and just meeting all different types of people and listening to how they solve problems. I guess it gives you a toolkit that we don't even realize we have.
That's amazing, and I think that's a great transition to today's topic. So I wanna go into your chapter, and for the audience, we're not gonna give all of the knowledge from the chapter. Why? Because we do sell books here. We still want you to go buy the book, of course, but we're gonna give you a ton of value. So you're in for a treat. So how high is your EQ? The case for social emotional intelligence. First off, Renee, what was your inspiration for this topic and chapter?
Well, I wanted to make it personal, something that I have some authority on, obviously. And, we work in business. Some people are corporate, some are entrepreneurial. And I think maybe with the feminine energy, I just was never that cutthroat. I got it done. I was aggressive in the sense that I tackled my problems, and I was a hard worker. But that whole political environment, or, I always climbed the ladder in a very professional and very kind way. And I think a lot of that had to do with empathy that I developed over the years, and just doing the right thing. And, you can't always cultivate that. Sometimes you make poor choices, obviously, over my 20-year career. But I did develop some skills, and in the book I talk about my 3 top skills that I learned, that they all happen to be part of emotional intelligence formula. And so we can get into that. But I said that my top one was empathy, and, there's a whole long story to how that was developed, but it's pretty much putting yourself in other people's shoes. And I guess in sales, you have to do a lot of that by listening and seeing what the client wants. So I'd say that that's one of the top emotional intelligence skills that I've learned. And also, sometimes when people are younger, say your young adult self, when you're in college, you think, okay, I have to get straight A's, and it's that cutthroat environment. But really, when you get out into the working world, I wish at the time in business school that they would have taught more classes just about, how to get along with your colleagues, how to be a team player, all those things that are the ingredients that make your colleagues or your clients really not necessarily only like you, but that they want to work with you. And those are the kind of soft skills that I'm talking about in my chapter.
Oh, I love it. I mean, and when I saw this, and obviously in EQ, Daniel Goldman, I mean, one of the pioneers for this, and I saw you kind of reference some of his work in here, and you took me back like quite a bit on just in general how when I was first, that might be, you said your younger self, right? That might be at least a decade ago or something like that I was first introduced to his work, and even the thought process of EQ, because I think in the past maybe IQ is all that most people focused on. Can you maybe just, let me step back just slightly and maybe just give a little bit of your view of just what EQ means overall, because I don't want to assume that all of our audience understands what that means.
Sure. Yeah, I think I must have seen Daniel Goldman in person, because I have this recollection of reading the book and hearing what he said, and it really resonated. Daniel Goldman is an American psychologist, and he's kind of popularized some of these terms, because obviously in the 50s and 60s, these weren't like mainstream things, maybe too touchy-feely, but now it's very common, and they see even women on boards and all these other places by having that diversity and those things that are more naturally female skills, like self-awareness, self-regulation, some forms of motivation, empathy, and just other types of social skills. So there's all this research out there, and even more, these days with the times that we're in 2020, knowing how to relate to other people and their feelings and what they're going through is really important, not only in business, but in personal relationships. So I hope that background helps a little with explaining those kind of skills.
So in your chapter, you also go into mindset. And for anybody that's listened to the podcast for any amount of time with me, they know that I'm a big mindset guy. I'm into it. Positive thinking. I mean, that's what I try to live my life. I mean, we all have our moments, but it's a big thing that I try to implement every day. Tell us a little bit more about your writing on mindset in this.
So this is something I've gotten into even more formally in the last few years, since I've been following some influencers who dominate in this space. But I think a lot of it goes back to my interest in fitness and athletics. I've run a marathon. I've run 8 half marathons. That doesn't always just happen. Obviously, you have to have the desire. But a lot of it is just the fact that you can do it. I mean, I might have aged myself a little saying I've been in the workforce for 20 years, but even just recently, last year, there's he's an author too, but he's also well known for being an entrepreneur. His name is Jesse Itzler. I've been following him. And I went to this amazing camp last year where we learned a lot on mindset. We did a 4-hour trek in the hills of Georgia, not only a running race, which I've done before, but like 80 burpees and hill climbs and all these amazing other aspects to it, and then a cold plunge after. And all of that was just part of a mindset. And I always knew that mindset was important. Of course, you have to push yourself and believe that you can do it, but it really is a factor because there's so much psychology behind it. And I'm really focused on that. And not only for myself, but for other people, including my children. So it's interesting when I hear them say, I can't do this times table in 90 seconds. And then they finish. I said, you did it, didn't you? And they're so proud of themselves because sometimes we don't think we can do it. It seems insurmountable, but when you put the time in and you just keep practicing, usually most times we can do it.
And I noticed this theme that you mentioned, and it's one of the good things that I've tried to do in my life, and I noticed that you also do, and you bring this up in the book, but you believe in mentors, coaching. You go to the events, you follow people that can bring value to your life, and you had a section in there that was called "Want to Propel Your Career Path? Consider hiring a business coach, or EQ mentor." Tell us a little bit more about that and what that's done in your life.
Well, a lot of times I've just been drawn to this. It's almost like an inner knowing that if I want to get better, sometimes you need to hire people to push you. In the sales world, you always have sales teams and motivational coaches and things that inspire you. I think a lot of any kind of business, whether it's entrepreneurship, sales, or anything you're doing, it revolves around pushing yourself. And how are you going to be motivated? Is it externally? Is it from money? Yes, sometimes. Or, just the goal of it. But sometimes you just have to be inspired and reframe the way you look at things. And when I first got into business development, I didn't think of myself as such a salesy type of person because it just wasn't my path from before. It was a transition for me. And once I started looking that I'm helping people and that I'm actually making an impact because they're seeing results, it really reframed the way that I was doing things. And I have a business coach to help to thank for that. And that business coach was somebody, and her name is Pamela Torres, no relation to you, just same last name by chance. And
might be, you don't know. It could be like a cousin or aunt, second, third. You never know. My dad's from Puerto Rico, so I don't know. Stranger things have happened. All right, go ahead.
That's true. And I started working with her when I was actually an entrepreneur. I had a gift basket company online, which is where I started in online, actually. And just by having someone to speak with about some of your problems. First of all, when you're at work, you're not going to go up to your boss always and raise your hand, hey, I'm having a little challenge with this, or I don't know how to do this budget spreadsheet. So you have to figure it out, and obviously we shouldn't be afraid to raise our hand and ask for that help. But sometimes newer in the workforce, you don't feel comfortable or you just want to do a better job. And I think that internal motivation of wanting to grow and having a coach to help you do that or outline your goals, you're going to get there if you write them down and you speak about them. So I am an advocate for getting some sort of business coach for sure.
That's awesome. And I'm a huge fan of it. And so you close out your chapter. So what is your life purpose? Question mark. And when I read that, for the end of it, I'm like, oh man, I'm like, that's hard. That's a hard one. I just had to kind of put the book down for a second, and I'm like, okay, thank you, Renee, for doing that to me right now. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so sometimes we're all evolving. We don't really know what our life purpose is, but we keep seeing patterns. I guess maybe that's the logic side of my brain. You look at your path and some of the things you've accomplished in your career or in your life, and I do believe your life purpose has to do with your skill set that you've obtained, your gifts, they could be, spiritual gifts, and also what brings you joy and passion. So a lot of times when you're speaking with people that they're not happy in their career, or, they're not making an impact, that might be because they're not doing what they're called to be doing. So I feel right now I'm at a great stage of my life in my career, and I do a lot of volunteer work, and both truly motivate and drive me. So because I have that joy in my career that I'm making an impact and helping others, it is part of the life purpose. So I'm not saying we all have it figured out. We know our full life purpose, but I do say do a gut check. Are you on the right path? I mean, not to knock any of my past jobs, but, if you feel stuck, sometimes it's time to evaluate and look, okay, well, I'm not feeling that great about this situation, so what can I do to improve it? Either ask for a promotion, maybe change industries, or do what really brings me joy. So we don't have the answers, but at least we should be asking ourselves the question.
That's awesome. Well, Renee, again, congrats on being published in our very first inaugural issue of our Women in Business edition of Mission Matters. I mean, honored to have you published. I'm excited to bring your work out to our readers and to our audience. I know I benefited from it. I'm sure they will also. But that being said, so if somebody's listening to this, Renee, and they want to connect and learn more about what you're doing over at Eikon Digital, or if they just want to connect with you and follow your writing and works going forward, I mean, what's the best way for people to do that?
Well, I would welcome that. Definitely. My name is Renee Lopez-Cantera, and you can find me on LinkedIn just with my name. And, if you have any other thing you need to look for, either Eikon Digital or that I'm in Miami. So please reach out. I'd love to chat with you about EQ or anything digital, and I'm wishing everybody many best wishes on their journey.